There we go. Whoa. Right as I was adjusting the camera there. What we got here? Ooh, it's a big one. It's a big one. Ooh. Ooh, there we go. That is a beautiful fish. And look what it went on. The old RATTLEBAIT. When in Rome, when in Winnipeg. When in Winnipeg, you catch big old greenbacks like this. This is on the upper half, I'd say. I don't know if the camera's gonna do it justice, but that's a nice one. And she's bleeding, so we're gonna get her right back. Man, what a beautiful fish. What a way to start this trip. Jeez. Ooh. All right, we're on the board. We're on Lake Winnipeg. These fish come out of nowhere. We're set up in the morning. That low light period, it's nice to set up in the shallows. We're in 5 feet of water right now, so this is a totally different deal. The fish are big, the fish are aggressive. The fish will bite. Not only RATTLEBAITs, but big RATTLEBAITs. So just for reference, this is it in my hand here. So this is definitely a nice change of pace from walleye fishing back home. Greenbacks are big, they're aggressive. Sometimes you can have some ridiculous days out here. So anyway, we're on the board, and yeah, we're gonna be sleeping in this thing. We can talk about that later, but let's get back to fishing. There he is, coming in hot. There we go. I love when they got an attitude like that. This one I can just boat flip, ice flip, whatever you want to call it. All right, easy now, buddy, so I can get you unhooked. The last thing I need right now is a treble hook in the finger. Ooh, this one's one of those real pretty green ones. I mean, they're all green or whatever. Barbless hooks are a dream. If I caught as many fish as they catch up here, I would just run barbless hooks even if it wasn't the rule. Let's give this guy a quick drink. You can just see this one's just one of those really pretty green ones. I don't know how well you can see with the light though. Beautiful green. So a lot of them, this one I would say is on the greener side. Sometimes you get some of those kind of muddy colored ones. We'll get him back. That would actually be a perfect eater if we were eating. For eating walleyes out here. Yeah, sometimes they get a little muddier, but I love it when they're green like that, bright green. The best is when you get a big 30-incher that weighs 11.5 pounds and is also beautiful and green like that. So I was lucky enough to do that a couple trips ago. But anyway, good eater. I like to get some of those eaters in as well, just little action in between some of those bigger plus size fish. There we go. That looked like an eater. Yep, just an eater. A midday eater though. Little greeny, this would be a perfect cutter if we were cutting. It's kind of neat. I haven't gotten to my running and gunning era yet where I'm going out and about, but usually that would be the strategy, is hunker up somewhere good, somewhere shallow for the low light periods, and then once the daytime periods come, you're just not having as much activity up shallow and you got to run around a little bit out deeper. So anyway, that's the plan. All right, so here's kind of what I've been doing. I have my truck out here on the lake. I've been using my snowmobile trailer to block the wind a little bit because the wind is going that way. But I do have the snowmobile in there, and I'm gonna pull it out and run and gun because, as you can see, it is daytime. I've been trying to kind of get away from the crowds here, but just setting up next to just kind of irregularities in the ice. As you can see, there's kind of some cracks running along here. It's not big. It's actually a really big one over here. I don't know if you can really see that in the distance on the camera here. But anyway, that's just been some of my thoughts. There's a lot of water here. Honestly, this is there's a lot of similarities to Upper Red Lake. So, you know, where there's just fish everywhere and they're just kind of all over the place, just kind of wandering around. But there are areas that have more fish than other areas. So we're actually gonna run around now that the morning bite is kind of cooled down. We're gonna run around and see what we can find. So I'll get my snowmobile, mount my scope on there, get my rods and stuff ready, and run around. Make sure to drop a pin so I don't lose my location here and forget all my stuff. But I'm gonna leave my truck and whatever here. So anyway, that's kind of how I'm gonna be operating and kind of how I've been looking at it. So. There we go. Ooh, all right. Little run and gun action. Actually, outdoors here you can really see the color. And pop this guy off. Just another rattlebait eater. I can't seem to quite get away from that. But look at this beauty. Absolute gorgeous green walleye. All right, we'll get him back. Another greenie. I actually got a 2-hole fishing strategy here, and actually I don't think my live scope is recording. So I'm not gonna be able to show this off as cool as I'd like to. So I'm looking at the rattlebait right now. There we go, got him. All right, there you go. I got a fresh recording device on my live scope, so hopefully that recording worked. But you're able to see, basically, I'm able to cover about 25 feet here. So basically I'm fishing like 2 people instead of 1. So this is not something I do a lot at home, but when on Lake Winnipeg, you can kind of do the same thing on Red Lake when you're chasing walleyes out there. But yeah, so I got, that one went on the rattlebait. And then I don't want to pull it up right now because I have it set perfectly, but I got the spoon that I can just jig with. So little combo set up there. This has just been a great way to actually sample both these presentations, just because you know, some of these fish are going to be super freaked out by a rattlebait and they're going to steer clear, and some of them are going to come up and cream it. So it's nice to have both these baits down at the same time, and I don't have to decide which one, because that's kind of the thing I was struggling with a little bit, was just deciding what I should be running. I was thinking I might do a 15-minute, you know, rotation where I do one and then the other. So anyway, because there's a lot of fish you could tell did not want to approach this rattlebait. But some of the fish just come up and cream it, so I do like having it down. So anyway, this is a big long rant, but just kind of a fun little tactic that you could try. We're actually going to call it for running and gunning. It wasn't super productive. I did see some bigger fish, but the bigger fish were a lot more slow and lethargic, so we're going to head back. It's 3:50 right now, and I'm actually going to set up a nice good camping spot this time, just so I can be comfortable, and hopefully we can catch some fish. But yeah, that's going to be the plan. We're going to take off and get out of here. Okay, so I have the tent set up already, but the wind is shifted. It's going to shift tonight, so I'm going to readjust my trailer to block that wind. I'm going to get a proper camping setup for the flip over shack, which is going to be different because I usually camp out of a hub house, so not as much room. But I think if I'm this is going to be a good experimental mission because I want to get a little more dialed with sleeping in this flip over shack, just so I can be mobile, run and gun on some of these big lakes, like for instance Lake Winnipeg. So anywho, that's what I'm gonna do now, and I'm gonna try and get that done before 4:30ish or so I can fully capitalize on that evening bite. It's a good one. Ooh. I don't like that. That's got pike vibes. Either that or it's a big, mean, aggressive walleye. There we go. Ooh. I'm gonna pull the deucer just in case. Oh yeah, that's a big walleye. Oh. Ooh. That's a big walleye. That is a nice one. God. Look at the way he T-boned that bait too. He's got treble hooks on both sides of his mouth. Oh. But ooh, make short work of that and not to get it in the hand. There we go. Ooh, look at that guy. That's a beautiful fish. You know, there's been a lot of reports lately of folks saying, look at that beautiful greenback. Beautiful. I hope the camera can get the colors and really show them off. But yeah, there's been a lot of reports lately about more and more folks using spoons out here, rattle baits just being less effective. This guy was going 26 and some change. We'll get him back into the water. We'll talk a little bit about presentation out here. There we go. All right, so like I was getting at, a lot of folks are starting to use spoons now, and specifically when you're talking spoons, they're not talking like Minnesota spoons, you know, Wisconsin spoons. We're talking like larger plus sized, like flutter spoons is kind of a go-to. And actually this is the biggest size of the Thumper spoon, which I've been using the Thumper spoon a lot around home, but ones that are a lot smaller than that. And that's the biggest size. And actually guys are using spoons that are even longer than that, you know, like a few inches long. So it's one of those trends that's becoming more and more prevalent as Winnipeg is getting more and more clear. People are using rattle baits less and less. But with that being said, I've caught most of my fish on this trip so far with the very, very largest sized Rippin shad. So just a big old rattle bait. This one's really cool because I almost never have it fall up on itself. And it's got a really cool fluttering action on the fall. So you're kind of getting the vibration on the way up, and then it can kind of flutter on its way down. So this is one of my favorite baits. I've talked to a lot of guides and they say the same thing. It's one of their favorite rattle baits out here. But yeah, it's sort of interesting that Winnipeg is going more in the direction of smaller baits and needing to be a little bit more finesse. One thing you definitely want to pick up on your way up here is salted minnows. And they're going to have them at whatever bait shops, you know, you go and grab your license at or whatever. Make sure to grab salted minnows. If you're using a rattle bait, you don't necessarily need them. I do know some folks will wrap a salted minnow around the bottom treble just to add a little extra scent, which I can see the merit to that. You know, those fish, oftentimes I've found some of those fish just come up and cream it really fast, but some of the other fish I've noticed are gonna come up and nose it and look at it, and having a little scent probably will help in that case. And the salteds have a lot of scent, so that's a really good option. So anywho, yeah, try spoons when you're out here. Put salted minnows on. You can put live bait on there as well. And then don't put the rattle baits away quite yet, despite what the fishing reports are saying. There's one real tight. We'll see if he'll come up for the spoon. Oh yeah, here we go. We're gonna get bit. We'll probably get that. There we go. Not big, but the action continues. It does seem for sure like these evening bite windows have been the very, very best. If you're talking, well, I shouldn't say that. I should say the low light bite windows have been the very, very best. So, ooh, this is actually a really big sauger. I don't know if I have a measuring device in my monster box, but this is like a really, you can sort of see, this is going to be kind of bright, but you can see the fins there. Can I go like that? Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, you can see the fins. This is a good size sauger. Not a giant, but like a pretty good one, man. So anyway, Winnipeg sauger. But yeah, the bite windows have been a lot better in the low light periods. All right, so here's the final sleeping arrangement setup. So I was able to fit a cot in here. I didn't measure anything, so like I didn't really have any idea how this was all gonna fit in here, but there's plenty enough room, so I got it running all the way from the wall to right about here. So had a little bit of extra room, didn't even have to move these crates out of the way. So I got a bunch of stuff piled up there. It's definitely a mess now that we're sleeping, but technically I could jig. I did cover up these holes so that I don't end up with a big pool of water, so that's going to insulate the holes a little bit with the heater. So got the heater. I decided not to throw the propane tank out because it fits and it's not a big deal. But I got the heater with the fan. I got the power box still sitting here. I threw a lot of stuff back here into the tub. It's just kind of my first time doing the flip over camping, so not super dialed, but I got the rods up here for now. Got some of my toiletry, all these things in here in case I need a midnight snack. But yeah, covered some of this up with the jacket too. Just I also sort of have like a place I can set something to if I want, but I do have a bedside table right here. So this is pretty much the whole setup. And yeah, I got the vents open, CO2 detector as well. So yeah, super dialed in. Not really dialed in enough, I think, to sleep, as you can tell by, you know, the tarp or the canvas kind of flapping a little bit. Even with the house being kind of blocked from the wind, there's still wind coming around and kicking some of the canvas. So it is what it is. I think I'll sleep all right tonight, but we'll see. It's going to be plenty warm. I do know that. It's a nice small area in here, so it should heat up pretty good. One up high there, just floating around. Might be a mid 20-inch fish, maybe. we go. Oh, I don't need to pull the transducer. Ooh, this is a good one. This is a really good one. Ooh. Oh yeah, there we go. Check him out. That's a nice one right there. Oh, that window. It's so bright. Look at that guy. Beautiful Winnipeg walleye right there. That thing was just floating along as slow as it could be. Definitely got lethargic vibes. Just kind of casually going along halfway down the water column. And it just smoked the rattlebait. The rattlebait is gone, man. Oh my gosh. Thank goodness for barbless. For picking out these trebles would be a disaster. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ow, ow. Okay. Let's get that guy out. You still almost need a little plier just to... No, actually you don't. Just like that, she came out. Where is this line on there? There we go. All right, beauty, let's get her right back. That's a nice long one. Actually, I'm gonna bump her really quick. Just to see really quick. Just another 26 incher. I've got a knack for 26 inchers, but anywho, back in the drink. That was awesome. So one thing that I've been noticing is that these fish have just been moving so stinking slow, just meandering around. Like when I'm hole hopping, I'm scanning around with live scope, and these fish are just barely moving. You know, they might be moving 1 foot a minute or something like that, just slowly. Even if you're on their path, you know, it could take 15 minutes for that fish to get to you. So it is interesting though, it does seem like some of those floating fish, if they do just meander in your direction, they'll, despite the fact that they're just like not really moving very much, they'll see your rattlebait and be like, ooh, I'll just take a bite of that since that's just hanging there. So kind of interesting. You could kind of see how that fish was just sort of not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, once it got close enough to sort of see that rattlebait, you could tell it kind of perked up and went and took a rip at it. So pretty cool strike. It's been an interesting run, you know, cold front, really windy today, as you can tell. Yeah, it's still some hungry fish. The bite is still better than it is back home. All right, let's talk rod, reel, line really quick, because I don't think we've covered that. We're on Lake Winnipeg, which means the walleyes are big, the walleyes are heavy, the walleyes fight hard. And we're also using barbless hooks because we're in Manitoba, so that kind of changes a little bit how you like to do things, just a little bit as well. So what I've been using mostly, I've been using basically 2 rod reel line setups, but what I've been using mostly for the rattlebait especially is this Vulcan. This is a 40-inch rod made by Tuned Up, but it's a glass rod, so it just has a lot more parabolic bend to it, a little bit more give when you're fighting those big fish. I hope the audio is decent with this wind, but it is what it is. So this is kind of like, I would say more along the lines of like a small lake trout rod or something like that, like a perfect burbot rod. So basically, you know, if I have a big 11-pound walleye on the other side, I've got a lot of give to fight that fish, but I've also got plenty of backbone. And the give is nice with the barbless hook. So that's the rod, or that's one of the rods. And then I actually have a 2000 size Carbon X reel, which I've been really happy with. I've just been playing with it this winter, yeah, they've worked really good. The drags are great. And then for main line, I have 10-pound monofilament line, and then I have a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader with a swivel just a couple feet above it. But yeah, that's been my go-to so far for the rattlebait setup. And I've kind of mixed this next rod in here and there as well. So this one is the 38-inch Commander, and this is usually like, this is like my back home rattlebait rod. So obviously this is not a glass rod. This is actually a really fast action rod, but I've been using this with my spoons. So this is the biggest size Thumper, but then also like I've tried little, not little, but like, you know, a 3/8 ounce buckshot and stuff like that. This one also has 10-pound line. Usually at home I'm using 6-pound line. So 10-pound is just kind of my bulked up setup for fishing on Lake Winnipeg. So it's basically an identical setup except for 1,000 size reel instead of 2,000. The same line, and then just a faster action. This rod also has a bunch of backbone as well, like a ton of backbone. So if I do hook a big like 12-pound walleye, I won't have any problems fighting it from like a power standpoint. But this rod is just a little bit faster. This is what I would normally use if I was you know, using like a big glide bait or kind of like a moderate size rattle bait back home. So yeah, that's basically the rod reel line setup, and yeah, we're gonna get back to jigging with these rods. All right, that wraps it up. We're actually gonna do a live stream tonight. If you're watching this video, the live stream already happened, but I'm gonna pack up and I'm gonna go fish with my buddy Chris Gahn, who's just a hardcore stick out here, and he's also got just some sleepers and some big fancy Yetis and stuff like that. So Chris is awesome. We're gonna do a live stream, but I'm gonna cut this video right here because that ends the ice camping, running and gunning, fishing in, you know, the otter fish house setup. So thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. Really appreciate it. And yeah, that's that. I'll see you in the next one.